Welcome to Kadampa podcasts. These podcasts offer practical solutions to daily challenges and help guide us to a happier and more peaceful state of mind. In each episode, you will find an extract from a teaching given by one of various Kadampa Buddhist teachers worldwide. All these teachings are inspired by the profound wisdom of Venerable Geshe Khalsang Gyatso Rinpoche, a Buddhist master for our time. We hope you enjoy listening.
What is it that we want out of our relationships with our family members, close friends, colleagues, just anybody, pets, people you bump into? What is it we're seeking through our relationships? Why relate? So in other words, in order to explore the meaning behind relationships, we really have to explore the meaning to life. Sorry, we've got to start there. Why live? Because some people try to opt out unsuccessfully. I mean, you can destroy one life, but you can't destroy life. Because life arises from mind, and mind does not arise from matter. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that just yet. I might get into that a bit later. So all of us, this is according to Buddha, all living beings, without exception, are seeking happiness. Seeking happiness all the time. All of us are all seeking happiness all the time. That wish is just within us, functioning all the time. You're wishing to be happy, and you're wishing to not suffer. You're wishing to be free from suffering, you're wishing to be happy. That's functioning within us. Literally, at any moment throughout the day, throughout the night, it's there all the time. That's why you do whatever you do always, because we're wishing to be happy. That's why we shift in our seat from one side to the other. Because, you sat like this for a little while, and then that begins to hurt, and that's better. Oh, no, that's better. And that's our life, basically. Whether it be, basically we're just always changing positions, seeking to be free from suffering and seeking to be happy. But, anyway, most of you are very well familiar with this because we talk about this a lot. Our methodology to accomplish lasting happiness, because that's what we're looking for finally, is lasting happiness. We're settling for short-term happiness. Short-term happiness hits, a sandwich or something like that, a movie, just a quick update on the phone or something like that. We're just constantly just little happiness hits. But what we're all looking for is an ongoing experience of freedom and happiness. According to Buddha, we're seeking permanent, lasting happiness. It's just we don't really particularly believe that that's possible. So instead, we just go for short-term happiness hits, one after another. And we think if I can just pull together enough conditions in my life, then maybe I can have a pretty good run of happiness before the eventual tidal wave of aging, sickness, and death collapses in on me. More good news from Kata Morton. That's what you come here for. But even within trying to arrange those little happiness hits, there's endless struggle, isn't there? Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. You arrange an event, a party. Actually, there's a lot of suffering just involved in arranging it. Then it turns out there's a lot of suffering during it. And then there's suffering when you have to clean up afterwards and deal with the fallout. Or sometimes it works out quite well, but it never lasts. The moment one thing finishes, you're on to the next. And then what about the next? And then what about the next? We get quite stressed about pursuing happiness. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, where does happiness actually come from? Where does happiness actually come from? So we have a lot of answers. We might think, enjoyments, entertainments, hobbies, so forth like that. But from the Buddhist perspective, it's very clear. Happiness is a state of mind. And therefore, the actual causes of happiness must be in the mind. A visit to a nice restaurant might produce happiness or might not. It depends on the mind. Being with your best friends might produce happiness or might not. It depends on your mind, doesn't it? Sunshine might produce happiness or it might not. Depends on your mind. Rain might produce suffering or it might produce happiness. Depends on your mind. Everything depends upon your mind. Your experience of the world depends upon your mind. That's Buddhism 101. And then Buddha points out, Geshe Kelsang points out right at the beginning of more or less all of his books, the real source of happiness is inner peace. The real source of happiness is inner peace. When you have a peaceful mind, you experience happiness. When you have an agitated mind, you experience agitation, which is essentially unhappiness. There's a disturbance, and you're seeking to be free of that disturbance. You're seeking peace. You're seeking happiness. Unfortunately, we tend to seek happiness, not by really seeking peace, but by seeking another form of disturbance. Like we're unhappy about something, so we decide to watch something disturbing that will distract us from our own internal disturbance, or we just, take refuge in comfort food, as we call it, which is it's a very odd phrase, comfort food, because mostly comfort food will eventually make you uncomfortable. Quite quickly, really. But still, we have that habit, don't we? Seeking happiness in things that do not produce it, because we're looking in the wrong place. That's where the whole spiritual path, or we can say the path of mental development, comes from. That's what we do here. We train the mind. This is a mind training center. What are we training in? We're training in those states of mind that naturally come with peace. They produce peace. They produce happiness. And we call those the virtuous minds, as opposed to the deluded minds that are agitated and therefore distorted. Because they're agitated, they distort the mind. Or we could say because they're distorted, they agitate the mind. Anger, jealousy, greed, attachment can never, ever lead to happiness. That's why we want harmonious relationships, because at some level we intuit this, right? We know this. We know that my jealousy is not making me happy. My envy is not making me happy. My anger is not making me happy. My intense possessiveness, clinginess is not making me happy. We know that. We don't stop it, but we know it to a certain extent, right? But often we think, you've got to change. I need you to change. You are making me unhappy, whether it be your partner or your kid or your parent or all the above, and then your colleague, and so-and-so is annoying me. You have annoying habits. Do you know about these people? You have annoying habits. And if I could just get you to stop, then I'll be peaceful. I'm actually a pretty peaceful, chilled person. I just need you to change. I'm not asking a lot. I just want, the universe to bend to accommodate me at every turn. And then I'll be happy. Anyway, that is the deluded approach to life. And of course, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And what those delusions are, self-grasping, self-cherishing, anger, jealousy, greed, attachment, so forth, we're going to be exploring as we go deeper into this. But here I'm just trying to establish the overall framework within which we want to understand the significance of relationships. The significance of relationships. So there are many levels at which you can understand how relationships can serve us in training the mind, because that's what we're talking about. Happiness comes from developing virtuous minds, love, kindness, compassion, wisdom, generosity, definitely patient acceptance. That's where happiness comes from. All those minds are characterized by being peaceful, and they are peaceful precisely because they're not deluded, which means they're not distorted, which means they're actually in alignment with reality. Love is actually a reality-based mind. As we explored just over this Saturday, we confuse it a lot, love, with what we call in the trade desirous attachment. We're confused about those two, and so therefore sometimes we associate love with, crashing waves, full moons, violins, and sort of like this heightened, over-the-top emotion that inevitably will lead to a come down and a sense of disappointment. We'll look at that as well later on. But actual love is a mind that actually at least intuits, if not directly understands, interdependence, and therefore cherishes the other person as valuable, as important, sees the other person as important. Important to what? Important to your own happiness. Let me read something. So this comes from this book, The New 8 Steps to Happiness. This book is a commentary to what we call a root text, a famous text that was composed about 1,000 years ago in Tibet by a great Kadampa Buddhist master, so that we practice within the Kadampa Buddhist tradition. So this was one of the early Kadampa Geshis, one of the early Kadampa teachers. His name was Langri Tangpa, and he was an extraordinary individual. And he wrote this text called 8 Verses of Training the Mind, hence the 8 steps, 8 verses of training the mind. And this text is basically about how to get the most out of your relationships. This is essentially a text on learning to relate to one another in the best, most meaningful way, in the way that will actually allow you to fulfill your deepest wishes for happiness, hence 8 steps to happiness, will actually deliver the goods. In other words, your relationships can deliver the goods depending on your approach, not depending upon them changing. We've tried that approach. That approach will never work. Will never work. Let me bend you all to my will. Forget that. Quite the opposite, actually. So this text, New 8 Steps to Happiness, based on the root text. So I'll just read the first verse, the first step, because it kind of sets everything up. So this is the first verse of the 8 verses of training the mind. With the intention to attain the ultimate supreme goal that surpasses even the wish-granting jewel, may I constantly cherish all living beings. With the intention to attain the ultimate supreme goal that surpasses even the wish-granting jewel, may I constantly cherish all living beings. So what does that mean? Well, briefly, with the intention to attain the ultimate supreme goal, what's the ultimate supreme goal? What is the ultimate supreme goal in your life? Well, lots of people saying enlightenment, very good. I thought some people were going to say a Ferrari. Or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, from the Buddhist perspective, the ultimate goal, supreme goal, is enlightenment, with the intention to attain the ultimate. What does that mean, enlightenment? Well, we'll learn that. We shall see. But basically that means that you have attained lasting peace and happiness because you have removed all the delusions from your mind. So you're no longer subject to uncontrolled anger, uncontrolled attachment, uncontrolled jealousy? Because you're in control of your own mind. You're in control of your own mind because you've removed even the deep underlying misapprehensions and mental distortions that produce all of those deluded states that produce suffering. Enlightenment is an extraordinary state through which you can actually benefit living beings. So that's why it's the ultimate supreme goal, because you fulfill your own wish, but you put yourself in a position to fulfill everyone's wish, to lead everyone to happiness. So with the intention to attain the ultimate supreme goal that surpasses even the wish-granting jewel. So the wish-granting jewel is sort of an image that's used a lot in ancient Buddhist texts. It's a bit like sort of Aladdin's lamp or something like that, like this object that has the power to fulfill worldly wishes. Worldly wishes. You know, you could win the lottery with it, or you could travel the world with it, or stuff like that. But none of that is going to deliver happiness. Finally, if you really want to be happy, you need to be enlightened. We'll come to that. The reason, basically, is because an enlightened being is someone who is in reality. If you're not enlightened, you're not seeing reality correctly. You are under the influence of delusion. We're all under the influence of delusion 24/7. We're misapprehending how things exist, and that fundamental misapprehension is causing a sense of separation, a sense of alienation all the time, even when you're feeling good. Which is why even when you're feeling good, it's never quite enough. You're lying on the beach, you got your deck chair, everything's arranged, and then you're just thinking, you know what would be really good now? It's already good, but you know what would be really good now? A certain drink, or just this piece of music, whatever. Like, there's always something. We're never fully content. Geshe Kelsang, he references our discontented, restless mind. Always. Even when it's good, a little bit agitated, a little bit restless. Have you ever had like a deep tissue massage? And you sort of finish it off and you're like, that's it. I'm there. Nirvana. But it lasts like 36 seconds, you know? And then already the tension starts creeping back in. Because you're carrying it. You're carrying the source of that within you in your misapprehension of reality. Called self-grasping, called self-cherishing. Anyway, I don't want to get into that right now. But this is just why we need to attain enlightenment. Because ultimately, an enlightened being has all of that gone. They abide in a state of continuous peace, authentic happiness, freedom, to an extraordinary degree. So what's the key? What's the key? With the intention to attain the ultimate supreme goal that surpasses even the wish-granting jewel. In other words, in order to attain full enlightenment, that's going to fulfill all my wishes and enable me to fulfill everybody else's wishes, what's step number one? May I constantly cherish all living beings. We could say, love. May I love everyone. May I develop love towards others. In his commentary, Geshe Kelsang says the path to enlightenment is really very simple. All we need to do is stop cherishing ourselves, stop elevating ourselves, stop feeling I'm more important than anybody else, and learn to cherish others. All other spiritual realizations, all other states of freedom and happiness will arise from this. Valuing others. That's why relationships matter. That's step number one on the path to enlightenment, is you need others.
If you feel inspired by this podcast, then dive deeper into timeless wisdom of modern Kadampa Buddhism by following the link in the episode description. We look forward to reconnecting with you in the next episode of Kadampa Podcasts.